Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about a cool down exercise, the static shin box. We talk a lot about shin box positions on this channel. We use a dynamic version of the shin box in a lot of warm-ups because it is key to helping people regain function of their hips. It's also super key for martial arts and wrestling. If anybody is a BJJ practitioner, you will know this position very well. Most forms of jiu-jitsu go through this position. Sambo, tons of martial arts use this position as part of takedowns. Does not mean you have to use it in a martial context. Learning it in any capacity will improve the function of your hip and the range of movement and the mobility. The mobility version of this drill is pretty simple. We take our knee, we get it to the instep of this foot. We try to get this to be a square shape. That's why it's called a shin box. The key thing here is the knee coming to the instep of this foot. And when we do it as a warm-up, we move from side to side, and there are several versions of that: hands back, hands forward. Hands back being the most common one, lifting the chest up, dropping both knees towards the ground to help mobilize the hips. But we also can do this as a static cool down exercise. The goal of the static version of this exercise is to take this hip, this sit bone, and drive it down into the ground. This knee is of little concern. We are most concerned with this hip. Our goal here is to verticalize our spine to drive straight down. In the beginning, when people try to learn this, you'll see their shoulders will be unlevel and there will be a big C shape in their spine as this hip is trying to lift. Their head is trying to get over their hip without moving the spine. So when we coach this, we take our hand, we drag the hip back. We're trying to roll the hip back to get it flat on the ground. How to accomplish that in the beginning is this lead leg hand goes straight down into the ground and we press with that arm. Lock out the base arm, drive your shoulder away from the ear, and feel a stretch in your hip. It could be in the back of your hip, it could be in the front of your hip, it's probably wherever your hip is tightest. When we transition to the other side, we keep our feet in the same alignment, we go to the other side. The main thing we're looking for is our knee to the instep of this foot, and then we are going to take our lead leg hand, put it directly next to our hip so our arm is touching the fabric of our pants, drive down into the ground, verticalizing the spine and trying to get this hip to roll back and down into the ground. If this knee comes up, that's fine. This hip is the goal. In the beginning, people will probably feel stretch in their knee as well. That's fine unless you have had a bunch of major knee surgeries. The goal is to get this whole system to reestablish rotation. If you're having trouble getting your hip all the way down, you can use blocks. I am using these non-standard yoga blocks that are bigger in size and thinner in diameter, so I can change the height more effectively from thick to thin to elevate our hip. We would get into our position, get our knee to the instep, pull our foot in until this is less than a 90-degree angle, ankle flat on the ground, and then we could block up the hip. Same thing is true with this rear hand. Put it on the ground and try to push yourself for this hip to sit all the way down. If you have to adjust your feet, adjust your feet. The ankle bone closest to the ground is trying to be in contact with the ground. Verticalize the spine and hold. The good thing about yoga blocks like this is you can change the height and move your hip lower towards the ground a little bit at a time. Keep that lead arm hand flat on the ground and drive into the ground to roll that hip back and down. The goal is to have our hip and our spine be just like we're standing up and to have our hips rotated. If your spine is a weird C shape or your shoulders aren't level or your head is cocked, stack up more bricks underneath that rear hip until you can get your spine vertical and then hold that position. We're looking for a stretch somewhere in our hip, maybe in our lower back, could be a lot of different places. There's a lot of muscles connecting in there. This is a simple version of helping us improve this position, which will improve our hip function, which helps us decrease our back pain, and can also be a sport-specific stretch for martial artists and circus performers and aerialists and people who fall down a lot. Yeah.